Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join Naviant for this month's Solution Spotlight in regards to integration for ShareBase. My name is Guy Schrader. I am the Manager of Sales Engineering here with Naviant, and it just so happens I have been working with the OnBase product about 20 years at this point in time. I just realized that an anniversary has popped up for probably my first trip to Cleveland. And I'm very happy to be with you today. For those people that aren't familiar with ShareBase, we're going to do a little quick demonstration and talk about what ShareBase itself is. And then we'll get into the integration for ShareBase, talk about what that is, why you might need that for your organization, and go into how it actually works, which includes a demonstration. And then we'll wrap things up with how do you get the OnBase integration for ShareBase with a little bit of recap and some questions. So let's jump into this. What is ShareBase? Without me stating what's actually on the screen here, ShareBase really is an enterprise file sync and share platform that's been developed by Hyland Software, has been around for a number of years. What this really allows you to do is actually run ShareBase standalone. You don't have to have OnBase to make this work, but your organization can control access to this enterprise file sync and share system for sharing files in a secure fashion, whether that be one file, whether that be boatloads of files. You can put them out there on the ShareBase platform and share them with users, anybody that actually has an email address and or a browser to be able to get to this information. So let's go through relatively quickly what the ShareBase looks like. All right, a couple screenshots. There is integrated security with this. This is a subscription where you get to set up your different internal users. So this would be the interface for your employees within your organization, where obviously you have a username and a password. When you get into ShareBase, everybody has a My Documents folder that they can store their own documents. There's also a variety of different ways that you can access your favorites, other documents that or folders that other ShareBase users have shared with you, recently viewed, so on and so forth. So if I just go into My Documents, we have the ability of creating subfolders inside of here that could contain any variety of different files, and you can see a couple files down here. Really, it's a very simplified system, pretty much what you would expect. You create the folders, you create the security surrounding them, you move the documents that you wish to have within these folders. But there's also this shared with me. This would be other folders that were created by other users, ShareBase users, that I've been granted permissions to. And you can see that there's a variety of different folders, who created it, when they were created. So the sales and marketing folder, there's a variety of different subfolders here. If I get down to this OnBase general info, that now has a handful of different documents. So if I wanted to actually take a look at this OnBase import options PowerPoint that's been uploaded, I can just select it. And ShareBase actually has an integrated viewer within it that has the variety of displaying a wide number of different file formats, in this case, a PowerPoint. Somebody can actually view that information. But one of the keys here to ShareBase is that there is that share button that appears up on the header there. That allows us to share this particular document or folder, if I was actually selected a folder, with other users that might be inside of your ShareBase system. This is for your organization only, or to create a link in this particular case that could be sent to virtually anybody in the world. There's a variety of different rights that can go along with these links. I'm just going to select view in this particular case. When I do that, there are some sub options that are available. Do I want to allow my users to download a copy of this particular file? If I don't select that, they're really view only. They're viewing this particular PowerPoint within a browser, don't have any other capabilities to do anything with it. There's link expiration, so you can set these links to expire after a certain number of days or hours. There's link security that goes along with this. So just jumping forward a little bit here, I'm going to select download, but you can see I can go ahead and email an access code for more secure access to this. I have the ability to email this to a specific individual. I just sent it to myself. And then we can ultimately come down here and say, let's create this link. Still from this ShareBase view, again, I'm still in as a true ShareBase user within my organization. I can see all of the different links that have been sent out, when they were sent out, and when they were set to expire. Now, conversely, this is now putting on the hat of the recipient of that particular link. They're going to get an email, and your organization has the ability of customizing logos here. We can change some of the look and feel of these notifications, but you can see who shared this particular document. All that I need to do is to click on View This Document. And in this particular case, since I set it up to have that elevated security, there can be an email code that has to be emailed to the initial recipient that they have to copy and paste from that email. It's not a requirement. It can be much simpler. You can just click on this link to actually open it up, but I wanted to demonstrate here that we have the ability of putting in that code. It's all masked, and submit. And now that user, anybody in the world that has that browser, has the capability of now viewing this document with or without the option to download that particular document. Since I said download it, we actually do that. I know that's very brief, but that is a high-level demonstration of ShareBase itself. So let's fast forward just a little bit here. What is the OnBase integration for ShareBase? Leveraging your ShareBase platform for your organization, what that allows us to do is to take content that's stored and managed inside of your OnBase system with individuals both inside and outside of your organization. Again, we could share this to ShareBase for other internal users, but we can also share it with external users, virtually anybody in the world. And this is all done through workflow actions. So this is a key component to this. This is truly an extension of your OnBase workflow that you can go ahead and share these different documents. And at a high level, we have some capabilities to create these ShareBase folders in a dynamic nature to share documents bi-directionally. We take a document from your OnBase system, share it out through the ShareBase platform, and conversely, allow users to upload documents into a folder, and those can automatically come back into your OnBase system. And we'll demonstrate this in a little bit, as well as sending some notifications. So why would you potentially need this? Given virtually every OnBase administrator out there says we need to have a secure way to be able to share our OnBase content. Now think natively, you can email things, you can FTP things. Each of those have its own benefits, but their own drawbacks. Email natively is not overly secure. Or some of the traditional methods, you print it out, you mail it, you FedEx it, you ship a box, you create a DVD or CD, whatever the case may be. Each of these methods obviously is very slow, but also not overtly secure at the same time. So ShareBase really allows us now for a variety of different reasons and purposes to be able to take your documents and distribute them. And these are just 5 examples of some different areas and processes where you might need to distribute documents from your OnBase system or add documents that are provided by a third party to your OnBase system that may be part of a workflow process. But interpret this and utilize this from your own organization. Where inside of your organization is there exchange of documents between you and a third party? Think, how can OnBase and ShareBase help to supplement that and speed that whole process of sharing that content so that business speeds up rather than waiting for FedEx overnight and the cost associated with that to get those documents to the appropriate people. Can almost happen instantaneously as we go along with it. So let's get into some more of the details. As we talk about workflow for these different actions to share this content with ShareBase, there's a variety of different workflow actions. One gives us the ability to add content that's stored in your OnBase system to ShareBase. And there's a number of steps that allow us to do that. Workflow actions exist to be able to create the ShareBase folder dynamically, to take a document that's inside of OnBase and add it to that ShareBase folder. There's also something called set a property to a link. And effectively what that is doing is it's determining that hyperlink to that ShareBase folder or that ShareBase shared document and storing it as a property inside of OnBase that allows us to go ahead and generate a notification with that hyperlink to send to whomever that recipient is. And we also have the capability of deleting our folders, cleaning up after we're all said and done. Otherwise, we'll have all kinds of folders for everything that's been shared out. Now, conversely, we can import documents from ShareBase into your OnBase system. And there's a number of components that make that work. When we configure this integration for ShareBase, there's a ShareBase monitor service that needs to be installed and run, typically on a server, that's looking for any documents that are coming into any of these folders that are configured to be monitored by the service and automatically upload those documents from those ShareBase folders. And there's options to index those documents. We can take those documents and route them either to a scan queue if we don't want to have them automatically indexed through the process. The key piece here is that the end user, whomever is sharing those documents with us, they're not performing the indexing for us. That can be done either in an automated fashion based upon workflow configuration, or somebody can actually index those documents from scan queue. But then also that could trigger additional workflow processes. So there's a lot of capabilities with this, but before we start digging into how this is configured, one of the key questions I thought to myself as I first started learning about this a number of years ago, how does OnBase and ShareBase talk to each other? Well, in ShareBase, there's an API token that can be generated. That is a unique integration token to your ShareBase system that needs to be configured inside of your OnBase Studio, where when we create the ShareBase profile, we take that authentication token, that API token, configure it so that now any of these workflow actions that we mentioned just a moment ago is using that API token to talk between ShareBase and OnBase. Now, here's just a variety of different potential scenarios of how we could utilize this integration. Could be scenario one where we're just saying, hey, we have a workflow process where I have documents that have gone through workflow that I need to share with somebody else in the world. How we effectively configure that inside of OnBase is that we have some workflow actions. We create a ShareBase folder. We add our document or multiple documents to that ShareBase folder. Again, those documents exist inside of OnBase already and are somehow related to the item going through workflow. And then we can have the solution send a notification to that third-party contact. Obviously, we need to have an email address. But that goes back to the set property to ShareBase notification link that I talked about before. And again, we'll show you this in just a few moments, how this is configured. Optionally, we want to delete that ShareBase folder at a later point in time so that we're just cleaning up after ourselves after those documents have been shared, and really there's no need to keep those folders around once we've shared the documents and we get verification that the third party has downloaded them. So that's a simple scenario. Take your OnBase documents, share them with somebody else. A secondary scenario, what if we have a workflow process but we need additional documents from that third party? We can accommodate that also. So that's just a little bit different within our workflow actions where we're creating a ShareBase folder again, but that folder is going to be for uploading any documents that are provided to us by that third party. So as we create that ShareBase folder, there is an option to monitor that folder for any new documents. And there's indexing options. I don't want to get into all the details here. We can actually bring in that document and store it as a new revision if you have revision control turned on for that particular document type. And then any of those documents that are uploaded to that ShareBase folder can be brought into OnBase in an automated fashion and imported and indexed accordingly based upon the configuration of your workflow. And we still send that notification to the third party in a similar fashion, but we're sending the notification including that link to that upload folder only. And again, same optional function to be able to delete that ShareBase folder. And then really the third scenario, which is what I'm going to demonstrate in just a few moments, we need bi-directional. We want to take documents that are inside of OnBase, share them with an external third party, but we also need to allow the third party to share additional documents or revisions to the documents that we shared with them back into the OnBase system at a later point in time. So all that's really different here is that we're creating two ShareBase folders through workflow, one for the outbound documents and one for the inbound documents. Excuse me. And for that inbound folder, like we talked about in scenario 2, we're setting it up to monitor the system for any new documents, index, or the revisions as we talked about, still send the notification as we talked about, and still, that notification could very well include both the upload and the download links, and optionally clean up after ourselves at a later point in time. So with that, those are some different scenarios. Before I actually start demonstrating that third scenario for you, I just wanted to point out that there is a whole ShareBase software development kit, SDK. There's a publicly available API for ShareBase, which beyond this ShareBase integration piece that we're talking about being done via workflow, this SDK allows your developers to effectively build their own integration with ShareBase. If it goes beyond the OnBase workflow actions, or if we want to be dealing with something even outside of your OnBase system that's going to leverage ShareBase in some form or fashion. So keep in mind, there's a lot of flexibility here for how ShareBase can be utilized even without your OnBase system. If we needed to go beyond what the integration components do, these 4 workflow actions that we talked, you can always leverage this SDK within Unity scripts, anywhere inside of OnBase, or as I mentioned, outside of OnBase completely. All right, so let's go through a demonstration here of how this integration actually works. I'm gonna start with some screenshots of how our workflow is configured, but let me set up the scenario here. In this particular case, we're talking about a legal contract review process. So I have a workflow already created where we're talking about drafting contracts, and I need to take that draft contract out, get it to the third party, allow them to review that information, allow them to potentially make some modifications to that document, and that's going to be actually shared as a Microsoft Word document, and allow them to comment, and I want to bring those documents back into OnBase after they've actually made those changes. So there's a couple different ad hoc tasks here that we're going to see here. We're going to have an ad hoc task within workflow that's just called send to ShareBase. And behind the scenes, that's going to create unique folders for that particular work item going through workflow, both for the download of the draft contract that we're presenting to them, as well as an upload folder that they can drag and drop any revised documents that they have, that they can download that draft contract, and we send that notification that goes along with it, but also allow them to upload their copy. So let's take a look at this. Inside of Studio, and I'll blow these things up a little bit here as we go along here. Within this particular process, here's this send to ShareBase ad hoc task. And below that, given there's a lot of things happening here, I'm really going to jump forward a little bit, but there's some different rules here that we're displaying some prompts. All things said and done, we need to be working with some different properties here because we're dealing with some dynamic documents. If this is going to be a repeatable process over and over and over, I can't use the same folder name, so it's going to make some sense that we use some properties, populate that based upon date and time in my scenario, or based upon that particular work item. But here's the create ShareBase download folder. And you can see the action type over here. We're creating the ShareBase folder without getting into all of the details. We're getting the path to this particular folder from a property, and we're calling this folder download. This is just creating this folder. That's all that we're doing. Moving forward to that next ad hoc task, next action, I'm creating that ShareBase upload folder. Similar thing that we talked about before, but we're actually calling that upload, okay? But notice, I also have the ability to monitor for new documents down here and to create a new revision for those modified documents. So that's important to note as we go through this. There's also this indexing tab when we're talking about allowing for the monitoring of those folders. How, when somebody uploads a document, how are we going to index those documents inside of OnBase? Here I have it set up to create it the same draft contract. Recall I said set this as a revision, but we're going to index this based upon, in this case, the contract request number of the item that's going through workflow. All right. We can then send my document to ShareBase, and we have to determine which item is actually being sent to OnBase and to which particular folder in this particular case. But it's very simple to go ahead and send that into ShareBase. That set property to ShareBase notification link, that's a key piece here also, because we have to get that document, that folder unique URL from ShareBase to be included within the notification. And there's a lot of information here. We can even set up the expiration of the link after 1 day. Scrolling down to the bottom, what are the different rights? We're going to give them the ability to view and download this particular document within the download folder. Given, I'm skipping over the upload link, but in the upload link, obviously, we're going to allow them to upload a document. And then ultimately, we send a notification. This is just a native workflow notification, but we're using those properties that were created within these different links to populate that notification. So the notification looks something like this. Here's the property links that we actually had set previously. So hopefully that sets the stage for how this could potentially work. And from a demonstration perspective, let me jump in here and actually show you this live within a system. So keeping a track of time here, I happen to have my contract review process. I have this contract request, and I already have a related Word rendition of the statement of work that was created today. We can see it's for 6/1 through 6/30. That behind the scenes, I have my ad hoc task here set up to send to ShareBase. And when I execute this, obviously it's going through all of the logic that I have within workflow. Here's just my prompt to say, yes, do you want to share this to ShareBase? That I say yes. So my workflow configuration is doing everything that I talked about before, creating that ShareBase folder, determining the links to those folders, uploading the document, and now also setting up the stage to be able to monitor and download that document. And I've just transitioned this item as my last workflow task into my awaiting response folder. So I can see it sitting here with still my first revision of that draft contract because nothing's happened yet inside of ShareBase. Let me just switch on over to my email. Because remember, what did I do? I set up the system to send out that notification with all of the links that were constructed. So I'm putting on the hat now of the recipient. Obviously, somewhere I would have had to determine who do I need to send this email message to, but here's quite simply what can be set up here, where the system can automatically set up that download link as well as the upload link. And I've just noted, here's the upload link for the second one, here's the download. I can just click on that. This can be anybody in the world. Notice I'm not being prompted for security here because I set up the system just to say anybody that gets this link can get to this particular document. Within ShareBase, they can go ahead and view that document. ShareBase does not allow for inline edits of this particular document, but this is exactly what I had shared out with them. So the concept is we've given them the ability to download that document off of ShareBase. This is 100% ShareBase working here. OnBase behind the scenes really doesn't know what's going on at this point in time. I can download that document, and I'll just say I'm done with this particular document for the moment. Let me come into my downloads folder. Now I'm somebody within legal, within that third-party organization. Let me just do something really crazy and fast here to track my changes. And if anybody's done some contract negotiations before, people do some really crazy things by redlining a whole bunch of stuff within legal contracts. Hopefully you just understand this is a very simple thing to see that we can go ahead and make a modification. They can even rename this document if they wish. We don't have to allow them to keep the same thing, guys, comments. I'll just do that. So they do whatever they need to do internally. They're not using OnBase whatsoever. They can email this thing back and forth, but after everything's all said and done, what we want to allow them to do is to come back into the upload folder. That now browses to a blank folder because I haven't uploaded anything into the system, and then allow us to go ahead and either drag and drop, or there's a way that they can go ahead and say, upload a document to this folder through the button here, which would then allow me to browse through my hard drive to the appropriate location. But that's all that I've done. I've uploaded that particular redline document. I can still view it here. It's again called Guys Comments with all of those redline notations here. Behind the scenes, that ShareBase monitor service that I talked about before is running inside of OnBase that allows us now, the system, to automatically find that document. And depending upon my timing here, I should be able to come in here and actually see that draft document that I'm still waiting just a few moments here because it's not instantaneous. That service might be looking for a few moments here, that once that modification has hit the system, I would actually see that automatically updated here. Let me just see if I can browse out of here and browse back into that folder or that workflow queue, get to my particular item, and hopefully, I think that item might have moved out of my queue. Nope, it's still there with my updates. It's not there yet, so I love failed demos when they're not working quite fast enough for us. But all things said and done, based upon my configuration, once that service runs, I should be able to see that updated document coming into the system as a revision, because that's how I've configured the solution to bring in that revision. So that service just is running slowly for whatever reason. So I'll finish up. Hopefully you can understand and follow through with me for the rest of this. So wrapping up here, if you have any questions, start thinking about putting those into the questions panel here. How do you get it? Well, this is something that's been around since OnBase 17. I demonstrated this on Foundation EP4. As normal, contact your Naviant account executive. What you're going to need is to have a ShareBase system set up for your organization and ShareBase users. ShareBase is not free to use. There is a cost associated with it. It's based upon the number of users that you truly need to have. But the OnBase side of that, that interaction for ShareBase, there is no cost to that. Historically, there was. Hyland took that away in recent versions. So you now have the capability of enabling this with your ShareBase system. Some related products, you need to have workflow. As you've seen, through those workflow actions, that's what actually is creating those folders and sharing those documents to the ShareBase system and bringing that back into the system. All right. There's a number of additional resources. I know 30 minutes is not always enough time to gather everything to learn about things. So out on Hyland Community, there's an interaction with ShareBase product page. I'd recommend that you go out there and take a look at the modular reference guides. There is a ShareBase software development kit setup guides, some starter Unity scripts that are available, as well as a whole bunch of use case examples and solution summaries for how ShareBase and the integration can actually work for a variety of different business use cases. With that, we have come to the end of our time. I'm going to take a look to see if there's any questions, and I see no questions. Either I did a great job of explaining that, or conversely, I did a horrible job. So thank you again so much for your time. I'll stick around just for a few moments to see if there's any questions that do come through. But I do encourage you again to complete that survey. Tell me how well I did, and again, provide any of those suggestions for future webinars. Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate each and every one of you for attending, and I hope to hear from you again sometime soon. Thanks so much.